Have you ever encountered as a pastor people who get offended so easily?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things probably that I've learned over these years is, well, obviously for me personally, not to get offended, right? And the only way to learn to not get offended is to get offended all the time.
Yeah.
So I have walked through that. Now it's really hard to offend me. Watch, try. Go ahead.
I was ready.
Your eyes really like,
Oh, here we go. Here's my shot.
if we pass, you offend you? No, but for real.
But same, I mean, I struggle.
I'm listening to you. I'm just looking at my phone.
I
I'm doing
struggle with
something.
that too.
What do you struggle with?
Like,
Getting offended?
I get defensive so fast. But
Why?
I catch myself while I'm getting defensive.
Okay, real.
And I shut up about it.
Okay. Real question.
Go.
Honest question. Because this is a good opportunity if people are listening, like your mom.
My mom, your
Well,
mom.
Bueno, voy a cambiar al español porque tu mamá está escuchando. No, like, you know, the three people that are listening
Yeah.
to this right now. No, for real.
Miss
like
Speed.
a good Miss Speed. Oh my gosh. A good example, like practical example, is this. Like, no joke.
Go.
Asking you a legit question.
Go.
Would you say in the time that you've known me that I've grown in that area
Oh.
as a person, like, about who doesn't get offended as much or doesn't get offended at all or whatever? Like, what's your perspective? And then I'm
Absolutely.
going to tell you what I think about you.
I've met you, and
I'm scared right now. I'm scared.
in the
of what
very
you're gonna say.
beginning, your voice you would say you weren't offended, but your voice would go up 5 octaves. Like, what? I'm not offended. And over the years, I've seen you go from to where you're like, you're probably right. I probably did do that. Sorry. And own up. So I've seen the
Progression.
progression. It's
a big word.
The octave. Shut up. The octave. You know,
okay.
the octaves come down.
Very good.
So that's cool.
Okay. Well, I can say the same about you, but not in the same way. Not in a mean way.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
no. I mean, in a good way. Because I would say you probably weren't ever obviously easily offended.
But I was.
Well, in the sense of like, okay, so I wouldn't be able to like hide my offense.
Sure.
Like, it didn't matter who it was. I'd be like, nah, I wouldn't say you offended me. I probably wouldn't even recognize I was offended, but I would act
Your voice
that
would
way. It was
show it.
obvious
Yeah,
in my
it would
actions.
be obvious.
But I would say you were very good at like being diplomatic in certain situations, like in certain moments, in certain meetings, you wouldn't do it. And then after the meeting, you'd be like, man, this dude. And then
Why
you start
your
talking
voice
about it,
drop?
right? So that was one part. So I've seen you get better at that. I've seen you be more like in the moment, calm, cool, collected, and say what you need to say in the moment. So then there's no meeting after the meeting.
Correct.
So that's good. I've seen you grow in that area. But then I've also seen, and what people don't see, and they might see it on this thing, on this and podcast, whatever you want to call it, is how if I offend you, it's very obvious in the moment.
That's true.
But
To you.
or vice versa.
Right.
But it's like, hey, no, time out. Like, where you going? Wait,
We got to fix this.
fix this real quick.
Right now.
And not like fix this in a real quick, like cover it up way. No. Why'd you get offended? What's the problem? Okay, well, you said
What's
this,
the
I
root?
said this.
We go down to the root
But then
fast.
it takes 5 minutes.
Right.
And then it's over. Now, I will say people have been in the room with us or in the car or wherever, and that happens, and they're just like staring. They don't know what to do. They're like, oh my gosh, things just got really tense. But then like 2 minutes later, it's like, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. And
Like nothing
legit,
happened.
Everything's
right?
fine. Yeah. I think that a lot of people,
That's how it should be, man.
it's how it should be, but I don't
Right.
think a lot of people
No.
in general have that type of relationship with people. I think they'd like to say they do, but when it like really comes down to it, I don't think they do. And this could again just be me and the culture and the context that I'm in, but something that I notice a lot, and because I've seen God do some really cool things with people in this area, is they come after the fact and they say, "Hey, you know what? Like me, I was raised, and my parents, my family told me like everything." Whatever happens to the family stays in the family. You don't tell nothing about nobody.
Bruh.
Somebody asks you, what's up? How are you? You're good, even if you're like dying on the inside.
I've had
yeah.
conversations with people, not even that, but just whatever happens here in this house is between us and God, and we don't get anyone involved.
And it could be like terrible
And
things.
it's terrible, traumatic, scarring things
Yeah.
that they just will not process in
Yeah.
a healthy way. And I think I've had to learn that because I didn't grow up in that atmosphere, but a little bit. But you've helped me come out of that a little bit. That's the whiteness.
For the people just listening to this,
Shut up.
just want to let them know.
He crying, everybody.
If you're not watching this, there's a tear. Man, yeah. But I think that's just a good example.
That's a very Latino thing.
Yeah. Well,
Machismo thing, yeah.
Trust me, I've learned that. My wife is a Japina. You know what I'm saying? Hey, baby, love you. No joke. Actually, was it last night or night before? Rose and I were talking about that. How, like, man, the first few years of our marriage was just like offense all the time.
Bury it.
Bro,
And then it'll
to the
just
point where you just
explode.
forget, and then it's like why you got offended, and then you're on to the next offense, and it was bad, really bad. People don't know, man. Like we struggled. There was times where like I would be on a
remember.
Sunday, but the thing is, you know,
remember.
because I would tell you.
I
I never
remember.
hit it. I never was like, but it was a really weird situation to be in, to where it's like this church starts and then it kind of grows quickly out of
Fast.
nowhere. And then, like, all of a sudden, I find myself in a position where I had a title of a pastor, but there was a lot of areas of my character that I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And God's been very gracious and blessed me with people around me who helped me. I mean, I haven't made it, I'm still growing, but there were the first few years, like, I know what God's grace is because of the way, like, He helped my marriage and my family survive, because I was so, like, cargado and weighed down with everybody else's issues that I was neglecting my own family's issues or creating issues and then not dealing with them. And then, like, there's points where, like, man, I would have to preach on marriage on a Sunday. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to preach on this?
This is how you keep your wife happy.
Yeah, exactly. When, like, man, but Rosa was very gracious. Rosa was very gracious with me. And also, I just learned how to now flip the script to where, like, man, I have no issue at all. Like, me and Rosa could fight at 10:14 a.m. on a Sunday, and I got to preach it, an hour later, and I have no problem being like, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling.
That's cool.
And not in like I don't know what the word, it's not a bragging or
get you.
boastful way.
I
It's
get
like legit, like, hey, we got issues. Everybody's got issues. But I'll say all that because now where we're at this May, we make 14 years being married, and we are really enjoying our marriage big time. Like, enjoying it to the point where other people have told me, like, hey, I can tell, like, you guys have really grown. Or like somebody will tell me, hey, or they'll say to Rosa, like, hey, you've really grown in this area. Like, I see you guys. And it took years, but, and obviously it never is perfect, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been a witness of that, so that's pretty cool to see. I think one of the best, we did premarital counseling at our old church with Helen, my wife. Hey, babe. And I think the thing that saved our marriage was do not expect anything from your person. Like, don't expect anything, because when you expect, you're going to get let down. And when you get let down, you get resentful. And that's helped us phenomenally when we meet with couples and us individually. So I think that goes hand in hand with just the joy in a marriage, because you're gonna get let down.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with that.
And
And you got to
so-
keep moving, and you can't get offended.
Yeah. And so I guess it goes to marriage because that's like the closest, example of relationship that we have, but it can apply to any relationship. But like the only way, like I said in the beginning, the only way to learn how to not get offended is by getting offended a bunch of times. And then you just learn. So the example or illustration I like to give is like two boxers or UFC fighters that like pregame or pre-fight, all the like, press conferences and everything, to like saying the terrible things about
Most
each other.
horrible
both
things about each
offended,
other, yeah.
Like everything's terrible. And then they get in the ring and all the words are gone and it's time. Let's just battle it out. They battle it out. One person wins.
And then you hug it out.
And then what do? Like
hug it
legit,
out.
the people who look like they hated each other the most, they're like hugging it out and they're best friends.
Yep.
Because it's like, it's over. And sometimes being offended will bring out the worst in you, but you are able to see the worst in yourself and be like, dang, that's who I am. So it's kind of like what I mentioned yesterday or a couple days ago in the sermon about how Jesus came not to save people from things outside of them, but what's on the inside. So Hosanna, the word means I beg you to save me. People are screaming, Hosanna, Hosanna. And then a week later, they're screaming, crucify him.
Kill him.
Well, like, what was the change? They realized, Jesus didn't come to save us from the Romans or save us from our situation on the outside. He came to save us, like, on the inside. Yeah. And that's offensive. And so people are like, nah, I don't want that. And that's why the gospel is offensive.
Absolutely. I think and we can live this, like, we can talk about this freely, because I mean, we just planted a church a year ago, and we've seen this play out in every single department.
Yep.
With
Every
people.
single person.
Every
Yeah.
single person has been offended. There's been conflict, but it's been good. Like it's been good in a sense of like we see it, and you and I look at each other like, man, you're missing the point. Like, don't look at it as an offense. Look at it like this is an opportunity to know somebody, an opportunity to like
100%.
grow in yourself and as an individual to look past your feelings. Like, please look past your feelings and look at like what that person is, where that person is coming from.
Yeah.
And it's been really healthy as a church
Yeah.
for us to see our people grow in that area.
Or they'll come and be like, this happened and this person, this, and I look at them just like, good.
Yep.
Like, no, you don't understand this. I'm like, no, that's
good,
awesome.
man.
Great.
That's
I'm glad
great.
that happened. What you gonna do about it? Cool. Deal with it.
That's been the word I've been using. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? You want me to solve your problems? Handle it like a big boy. Come on.
Yeah.
Put some big boy pants on.
No, but you don't understand. It's like, bro, yeah, dude, just handle it.
I do understand, but
It's actually a
handle it.
really good thing. So every conflict is really is an opportunity. And then I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I have learned over the years that I'm able to see, I guess both of us really like transmit to the people around us now, like, hey, every conflict is an opportunity. Like, it's a good thing. So let's deal with it. Let's grow. Let's get to know each other better. Let's be better friends. Let's go under the surface and stop talking about like, hey, how you doing? I'm good. And that's it. Like let's go really deep. So that's one thing. Cool. Every conflict is an opportunity. And then the other thing that I think, talking about offense and all those different things is that the cool thing is that one specific practical thing you can do when you get offended, and this is what I tell you, you've heard me say this, assume the best.
Right.
Assume the best
don't
of the
actually
other
do that.
person.
Yeah.
Because most times you create a scenario in your head that is a million times worse than what it really is. Not saying it's not wrong, but like that you're not wrong. Like you can be right. You know, someone can be wrong in their situation, whatever. But don't assume the worst of them.
Right.
So like somebody may make a mistake. They might, you know, disrespect you, whatever. But don't go like, oh, they disrespected me because, and then you go like really deep and like to the point where like, oh, they've hated you since 1993. Like, no, like just maybe they're having a bad day, bro. Like maybe
Give
it's nothing
them
about
grace,
you,
man.
dude. Like it's not that big of a deal. And so I think that's something the devil uses as a tactic to divide churches. But if a church could really, really look at it as an opportunity, they could use it as something that could really make them stronger. I feel like we've
And
done
I think
that.
that's the key to not our success, but like the key to like our solid foundation as far as relationships is that, man, like when you get offended, stop gossiping.
Yes.
And don't come to me and tell me that something.
Ooh, you're about to get in trouble.
I'm just saying, like, go
Déjame
fix
traducir
it.
eso. Deja de chismear.
Fix it right away, because otherwise it's going to eat at you, and then that's how churches die.
Yeah, and they
Straight
die
up.
from the inside.
Churches die from the inside because people don't know how to deal with what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And they don't have leaders to be
Right.
like, hey, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Go fix it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what separates. We ain't got to figure it out at all.
Right.
But we've learned that.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
100%. And yeah, like, I mean, there's a bunch of popular phrases that people say, but like gossip, what is it? Like gossip stops when you
gets
close
to
your
my
ears or whatever. That's cute or whatever. I think gossip stops not listening to it, but like telling the person, why are you telling me this? Like,
What do we do about it?
what do I do? Like when somebody comes to me as a pastor and like, can you please pray for this person because this and this and this? I'm like, wait, time out. Is this a prayer request or are you gossiping?
My answer is, what do you want me to do with that information?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want me to do?
And so Oswald Chambers, you know, early 19th, 18th, whatever, no, 20th century, whatever, I don't know the date, pastor, author, he said something that I always hold close to me and I remember. He said that God doesn't give you discernment in order to criticize. He gives you discernment in order to intercede. And
tight.
what that means is, hey, if you actually like realize that someone's wrong or like they're dealing with something or they've offended you or whatever, and you can see it and you can see exactly for what it is, God doesn't give you that ability so you can like gossip about the person or make them
criticize,
feel bad or criticize. He actually gives it to you so you can see it, like maybe no one else sees it, so you can pray for them.
And I think one of the things that, what honestly the Holy Spirit does for you as a believer is he changes your lens, like kind of like a camera lens. Camera lens. So when he changes that camera lens, like when you see people just vent or just say their offense, you don't look at them like, you
Look way
idiot.
past it.
You're so wrong. You look at them like, what? something happened to
Yeah.
you as a kid,
Yeah.
or you're going through something, or your marriage, or your relationships, and it's caused. This is just a symptom of something
Yeah.
very deep that I probably can't even help in.
Yeah.
I can help pray for you,
Yep.
but you're just demonstrating a symptom that,
Yep.
and you see that very often in churches.
Yeah. And so I would say, talking about offense and conflict and all those things, another phrase that we use here a lot is to be loved but not known
Oh man,
is not love
not
at all. And to be fully known and then not loved is our worst fear.
right,
Right. And so most people like to live in the middle of that. So like, I'll let people know me just enough
little bit
to where like they love me and they care for me and they accept me, but really
They don't
when like
know
you're
me. They
alone
don't
and you
know
put your head on the pillow at night, you know, like nobody knows you. And that's a really lonely and terrible place to be. But like Christianity or the gospel, the love of Jesus, his grace, his mercy, offers it's the only offer of any religion, any belief system or whatever, to where you can be fully known, fully loved
fully loved.
by a God that knows you completely and he's known you forever. And so that's a really good place to be. And I think that one of the, if we talk about symptoms and roots, the root of offense a lot of times is like, oh crap,
They found
they
out
figured
who I
me out.
am.
They figured me out.
cracked the
And so
code.
I just gotta like defend
Yeah.
the castle. It's like, man, I tell my sons all the time now. And it's something I told Kimberly too as she grew up, my daughter, like, dude, it is not a sign of weakness to admit that you're wrong or admit that like you messed up or admit that like you have a major character flaw. Who cares? Cool.
Well, I do too, man.
Yeah.
I do too.
Man, that makes life a lot easier. You got really intense. I do too. I feel
No,
like, yeah.
What
hold
I'm
on.
saying is like when I have to correct my daughter because she's a leader, man. But when I correct her, I'm like, hey, my job is to make sure you don't grow up to be a crappy adult.
Yes.
That's my job.
Right.
And I didn't have that system growing up. So like,
Yeah.
but it's true. Like,
And so I got news for you.
you're crappy. But it's true,
understand.
man. Like, we gotta make sure these kids that God entrusted us with don't grow up to be crappy adults. Because real talk, pastor kids are what
You choking
the
up right
worst.
Oh yeah.
Pastors' kids are the worst.
Yeah, I got 3 of those.
And I got 2.
No, but they're mine,
they
I mean, whatever.
right now.
Hey,
but I'm
I-
just concerned. Like, gosh,
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
because what do you tell somebody who's heard it all? These kids heard it all.
Well, like the other day in church, Max, he always sits like in the same spot. He's 10. He's a smart kid. And so like, we're standing up, we're singing and all those things. And after the service, we're in the car and I say, hey buddy, I'm gonna tell you something. I was like, I'm never gonna be the dad that's like, hey, you better stand up during the worship and praise the Lord.
That was my dad.
Raise your hands. I'm not gonna do that. But I did tell him like, hey, it would be cool, like to see
would
you
be
married.
nice. It'll look good.
Maybe like it just come out of you like, one day I'm gonna stand up in the presence of the Lord, whatever, right? So he looked at me and he's like, I don't know if you've noticed, but I usually, as I'm sitting there, I'm reading the Bible because I like to combine the 2 moments. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I like to hear the worship music while I'm reading the word. I'm like, all right, cool.
right, do your
Cool.
thing, bro.
You
Do your
want to
thing.
preach this something? Like, all right, cool. But I say that because why is the reason that I feel that? Let's be honest. Is because part of me goes, I bet people are looking at this kid and they know
gonna
he's the
pass this
pastor's
kid.
kid. And they're like, mira, ni se para, ni se ponga de pie. He doesn't even stand up. But it's like, who cares, man? Like, I don't care.
When I
about
tell
any
you,
of that.
like, the church I grew up in, like, my dad, he was like the worship leader and the drummer. Like, he did everything.
What was the name?
I'm not gonna say names.
I just kidding.
But he would play drums, right? He was like hitting the drums, getting them rhythm, and look at us and be like,
Lift up his neck. Yeah.
and we
you better
gotta
stand up.
like lift our hands up, or we gotta pick her like stand up, praise.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, over the years, he apologized, like, "Hey, man, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I forced you guys."
Yeah.
So I'm cautious of that, like exactly
Yeah.
what you're
Oh,
doing.
yeah.
Like, so it's cool to see our kids organically do it because we don't.
Yeah.
Like, I don't push my kids.
Yeah.
I've never pushed my daughter, and I have to see her like just like close her eyes and worship. Sometimes I'm like, "Dang, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
legit. That's the Holy Spirit. That's not me.
Yeah.
because
Yeah, for sure.
it's not an image thing."
Yeah. And talking about your dad, I was kidding. No, but hey, no joke though. Talking about like offense and talking about conflict resolution and talking about,
man.
like it's
Yeah.
been really cool. So maybe we can end with this. I would say if there's like people who you don't even have to be involved in ministry to understand this principle. But I can say this, like from a pastor perspective, I would 100%, this isn't an over exaggeration, I would not be in ministry anymore if it wasn't for your dad.
Damn.
No way. 100% no way.
That made me
And
cry.
no, but no joke.
for
I
real.
would have already been quit, done, out the door for multiple reasons. One, obviously his help and his guidance and his wisdom, but also like because he wouldn't let me sit and be offended. He'd be like, "Nah, hey, I'm gonna tell you you're wrong. I'm gonna tell you why, and we're gonna deal with it." And I was like, "Dang, I never really like had that." And so, like, at first it sucked. And I was like, I don't like this
I remember.
dude.
Why would you bring your dad over here?
This guy, man.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, dude, I understand that completely now. I would not be in ministry if it wasn't for Jorge Gomez. Because, like, he just straight up, like, we disagree about stuff still.
Still.
And, like, people watch us disagree. And they're like, what is going on? I'm
guys
like,
okay?
nah, this dude, I know
to
he
call the
loves me
cops.
and I love him. And, like, it's, like, legit real stuff. And then another thing, the other part of it that's blessed me, and it's the reason I'm still in ministry too, is because he brought a lot of things a few years ago when he came. A few years ago, it's like 8 years ago now, when we started doing ministry together, or 7, something like that. And he brought a lot of like cultural, traditional tendencies of ministry in his bag that he came with, and that really like was
Enlightened you.
caused a lot of good things, and then it caused a lot of friction with me because I'm like, nah, why do you do that? Like, why do you do things that way? Why do you think that way? And what is the coolest thing that I've experienced is this dude, instead of being like, nah, I'm older, you don't know nothing, be quiet. He listened to me. He's changed in a lot of
ways,
areas to now where like, I know he does it not for me. He does it for other people just because so they'll understand. But it means a lot to me when he's like, David is my pastor. That's my pastor.
That's crazy.
I'm like, dog,
That's crazy.
That's my
Yeah,
dog.
that's
like,
crazy.
But I say that because just to give the personal detail of our context, but anybody that's in ministry, you don't have to be in ministry. If you're married, if you're a parent, whatever, you need an older, wiser person, but doesn't come at you saying they know it all, but comes at you saying like, hey, I'm vulnerably going to tell you about the mistakes that I've made, and I don't want you to make the same ones, because that's why I'm still in ministry. Boom, roasted.
Boom, roasted. No, and he's my dad.
Your dad.
So I get it on a daily.
Yeah.
But it's you need that person, man. You need that person to tell you you are absolutely wrong. Your reaction was wrong.
Yep.
Your attitude is wrong. Your posture is wrong. Fix it.
Yep. Hijo.
I don't know how many phone calls I've had where I'm like,
Hijo.
and I'm like, for real,
Oh,
man.
here
Like,
we
just
go.
leave me alone. Let me have dinner with my kids. But I need it. Like, I need it. And we all need that person to tell us, hey, man, you're wrong.
Yep. And so
And stop getting so defensive.
yeah, I would say this. I guess the most important thing, or I mean, of all the things we talked about, being offended and all those different things, but one thing I would say is, if you have somebody in your life that checks you, right, and they're always like, "Hey, what about this? Why'd you do this? That whatever," and you're like, get frustrated with them, you're like, ugh, and you want to like distance yourself from them, I can tell you that's probably the wrong decision because they actually the ones that care the most.
Yep.
And I would say the majority of people, and this extends to church life. That's why a lot of churches are very superficial. You can even tell by their pictures they take. It's just like nobody knows anybody. It's like they just exist. And it's like, nah, man, like the best thing that can come from growth, whether it be in your family or personally or in relationships or in church, is to have conflict, get offended, learn how to receive that offense, recognize that you're offended. Why are you offended?
Right.
And then thank God to put people in your life that actually care enough to offend you, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. I think one of the most important things is to understand how important it is to quickly resolve your issues in your recovery time. Because you're going to fight. I mean, fighting is inevitable. Like in friendships, in marriages, and whatever. It's inevitable. You're going to fight. But your recovery time like tells you a lot about your character.
Yeah.
Because if you can exist and you can go a week without talking with the person you love the most, that shows me something about your character. That you can tolerate that toxicness. Like I can't. I got to fix it right away. Yeah. So having people in your life to be like, hey, your marriage okay?
Yeah.
Your friendship's okay? Like go ahead and fix it. Like, but fix it today.
Yeah.
Like, and have that urgency. Like, I mean, I always use this example. Like I had cancer twice, whatever. But the doctor
should be whatever.
I had cancer twice, right? The doctor was like, hey, you got cancer in your throat.
What is it?
Cancer. Cancer. You got cancer in your throat. You can live with it till you're 80. But I was like, no, take it out. Like, take it out. There's got to have an urgency to take it out. And the things that you deal with, the reason why you get offended, there's got to be urgency to fix those things.
Yeah.
Like, immediately. Because you don't want...
Yep.
It's a horrible existence. Just constantly being offended. Like, it's horrible.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, everybody who's a parent knows, but even if you're not a parent, you can understand this. But like, as I see my kids, I'm like, it's not just the idea of like, I want them to have a better life than me. I mean, of course, every parent wants that. But I'm like, forget all the material things or house or car or whatever. Forget all that. That's all garbage, honestly. But like, I want them to be way more developed in their character than me. So that they can do more for the kingdom of God
For real.
at my age, like as they grow, than I can. And so like I look at that, I'm like, dang. So like that is the biggest like legacy I want to leave to my kids is like, hey, you know what? Dad's not perfect. Dad deals with this. Mom and dad deal with this. Like, I want you to know why. I want you to know how we dealt with it. Don't be afraid of those things. Like, those are all really, really beneficial things in life. And if you really get down to it and look at it, majority of people, they don't live like that.
No. And I think it's important for us to like surround ourselves with people who we give access to tell us things. Because I think one of the most damaging and harmful things for us as pastors is to surround ourselves with people who are like, yes, pastor.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And then they go out the door and they're like, that idea sucks.
This dude sucks. Yeah, exactly. And we need to surround ourselves with people who be like, nope, bad attitude, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you're looking at it wrong.
Well, you say that, and I will tell you this, and you know, bro, biggest thing that I'm consciously always trying to be aware of. The people that disagree with me are probably the people that love me the most. And then not only that, I can never default into taking disagreement as disrespect. And man,
That's
ministry, well, not just ministry,
Gosh,
just
that's
like,
Yeah, that's hard.
like I know, because that's how you get disagreed with the other day, and I was like, "Oh, you get defensive."
I got defensive,
I checked
but
you.
I didn't react.
Somebody was checking you, telling you were wrong, and I noticed that you were getting offended. And I'm whispering to you while you're getting. I'm like, he's just trying to help
calm
you.
down,
He's just
calm
telling you the
down.
truth. Like, calm down.
But I didn't say nothing. It was just my face.
Yeah,
I
but
was
you
just
could
like,
tell you were offended. And so, but I say that because, man, like I've seen the opposite. So true of like pastors who've been in the game for a long time. Not just pastors, anybody. Man.
anyone, yeah.
Like they've been in a game for a long time, and they like I wouldn't even think consciously. They probably unconsciously like have surrounded themselves with a bunch of dudes who are like yes men.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, no,
Gosh,
that's a great
it's
idea.
so
That's a wonderful
dangerous.
idea. Yes, you did. You're
Great
right.
job.
You're right.
Great
and
idea.
and they're not. And so when somebody rolls in and is like, hey, no, I don't agree with that.
You become
Instead of being like, oh, cool, why? Tell me, let's get to know each other better. It's like,
How dare you
disrespect?
Yeah.
And that's a scary place to be.
After all my years in ministry,
Exactly.
you're gonna come at me. Yeah.
And you know this because, again, going back to you, your dad, and other people who've been around us, I told y'all when like a year ago now, I told you like if ministry and being in church and being involved in this, if the long game turned you into that at the end, then I want out now. I
get
don't
it.
want to be a part of this.
Yep.
Like this ain't for me. Like I ain't that dude. I'm gonna live miserable. If like we need to be able to
that's
have
the end
conflict.
game.
Yeah. Like I don't want to get into where like I've been in this long enough to where people just automatically accept what I say like it's right. I need people to check me. I don't care if I'm 80 or 8. Like I need people to check me. Why? Why are you making these decisions? Like I love that. When people do that to me, I'm like, cool. I appreciate you. I know that you care. It shows that you're invested. Like you ain't just cruising, not just on cruise control.
You actually care for me.
Yeah.
And my family and my wife.
And I know
my
we
kids.
talk about it like in a ministry context, but that's in anything.
Absolutely.
Think about marriages. Think about parenting. Think about school teachers, whatever job you're in. You know, like people just cruise and like, nah, man, like there's so much more for you. But it's a vulnerable place to be. And so most people
and not
because they don't have
everyone's
that.
open to that.
No, not at all.
That's a process, and it's something you develop.
For sure.
And I think this podcast is gonna help you.
You might want to re-say that again because it's not a podcast. Boy, trying to end. He tried to end with a nice little,
Pause.
Hey, let's make a clip. That was a podcast.
Shut up! I'm offended.